A humbling weekend on the north side of Chicago. We talk about how are we feeling about this Cubs team right now?
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Please support the show and be a part of the Locked On Cubs community by following on all audio platforms. And you can watch, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's Monday episode is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your baseball franchise? And this game is definitely for you. To download the game, just visit ultimatebaseballgm.com or look it up in the Apple and Google Play stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On, that's Locked On in all caps, for Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. Well, what a weekend it was on the north side as the Cubs lose the series to the Dodgers. They were able to take one of the three games. We didn't have a good feeling about this series following Thursday's game. And then they won 13-0 on Friday before falling 9-4 and 7-3 the rest of the way, Sam. That is an appropriate episode title. We're going to certainly encourage you to add your thoughts on the bottom. If you're watching, if you're listening, send us a tweet. But the Cubs now 12-9, but kind of a weird weekend.
And I appreciate you having me on, and I'll talk to you. No, I feel pretty good, Matt. I feel pretty good. So I have a few takeaways. So cut me off if I start rambling.
Right.
I have some negative takeaways, but overall I feel pretty good, and I'll get to that.
Okay.
First takeaway. I am, for the first time this year, I want to say publicly on the program, I'm officially disappointed in the start for Hayden Wesneski on Saturday. Look, I still believe in him and his talent. He's young. I'm not saying that. I just thought that he was going into this season, I thought he was going to be one of our better pitchers, and he's just lost right now. The numbers are flattering. It should have been much worse on Saturday. The command is bad. The pitch selection is bad. The crispness of the stuff isn't there, and it hasn't hurt the Cubs because they've actually won every start but this last one that he's pitched in, ironically. So it's not like it was a mistake to put him there, but I'm just disappointed. And we'll talk about this on Tuesday's show with Lindsay, but I am so into this pitcher development thing because it's what's plagued the Cubs for so long that I'm looking at every single thing. And I really thought we snuck one in here and he was just going to roll. And that isn't what happened. Number two, I want to clarify with you especially, because you and I have had some arguments about this, and I'm about to tell you what it is. And then our listeners as well. I want to clarify this bullpen, because I said before the year it was going to take about 20 games or so for David Ross to get a clear picture of this. And please feel free to cut me off if you think I'm wrong here. 20 games are up. We have a clear idea right now of what this pen looks like, okay? There are 4 high-leverage guys. And no, Matthew, and no to every manager out there at home. High leverage is not a one-run game that you're losing in the 6th inning. Maybe in the postseason, yes. Not this. This is a tie game or you are leading late. These are your 4 best relievers. Keegan Thompson, okay, Mark Leiter Jr., Adbert Alzolay, and Brandon Hughes. Now, the problem with that is 3 of those 4 gentlemen are specialists, meaning Mark Leiter Jr. David Ross is only confident versus him against lefties. David Ross is only confident at Adbert versus righties. Brandon Hughes, he's only confident right now in lefties, although I believe Brandon Hughes deserves a chance to just have an inning on his own. So my point is this. Keegan Thompson needs to be used more wisely. His last 2 outings, he has been used down up 4 against Oakland and down 2 today in the middle innings against the Dodgers. I think Keegan Thompson might be their best reliever. He might be the guy that ends up getting the 9th. I'm not sure you need 2 multi-inning relievers and scheduled starts for that, okay? So that's starting to bother me. The honeymoon phase with Ross on that is over. Starting now, you need to use Keegan Thompson when you have a chance to win a baseball game in the highest leverage of spots. He could still pitch multiple innings, Matt. He could go 7, 8, 9 if he wants.
Sure.
But you can't bring him in once you're down. It makes no sense, even though there was a day off on Monday. The middle leverage guys, meaning you could use them in high, you could use them in low. Boxberger and Michael Rucker. Low leverage relievers, guys that should only be in the baseball game if you are trailing, as of right now, Mr. Merriweather and Mr. Fulmer. Merriweather only gets used. It's like he's a position player.
Yeah, it's almost that way. Yeah, he's a mop-up dude.
And I don't believe in that with a guy like that. If he's only going to be used, and I know I left out Estrada, just haven't seen him pitch enough.
Yeah, he just got promoted.
Down 2 in the 6th, 7th inning, it's not a Keegan Thompson spot. That's a Merriweather spot. And if you don't feel comfortable using him in that spot, then get somebody else you do. Okay? So before I get to my third takeaway, what do you think on that?
No, I think you might be surprised by this, but I mostly agree with that.
Okay.
I don't want to get too hipster on everybody, but while I would not call trailing in the mid to even later innings high leverage, I don't disagree with you on that. I believe I referred to it in a text exchange with you, one of many this past weekend, as a competitive moment.
No, it is.
And I think if that's who they wanted to put in that competitive moment with still 3-4 at-bats left, then I'm okay with that. However, you listed 4 out of the 8 relievers right now as you would go to high leverage situations.
Mm-hmm.
That's only 50%. I'm a journalism major, but that's only 50%. Not nearly enough, not based on, okay, well, all the fleet of 8 guys could pitch the 8th or 9th.
Right.
It's just a matter of quality pitching at this point. It's a lack of quality pitching. And entering the weekend, the bullpen was pretty solid overall. We talked about the conflicts on Friday's episode with specifically the 9th inning, but it only ramped up this weekend, I thought, and only solidified and confirmed some of our worries and concerns. Now, I don't know if I would say there's a huge problem, but it really is a conundrum because you have all these specialists.
Yeah.
And later in the show, we're going to talk about roster spots that are not being optimized right now. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, on April 23rd, you could not have even one of your 8 relievers just be a cleanup dude in Merriweather.
Right.
If he can't pitch in the 6th and get 3 outs trailing by 2, then what are we doing?
Exactly.
And you do need to bring somebody else in.
Right.
And I do think there is a lack of seriousness about this roster right now, which is unfortunate, which again, we'll get to later. But I think what you're saying about the bullpen, I'm tracking with that.
And the one thing I'll slightly disagree with you is I don't think it's bad to have four of your 8 as your high leverage. What's bad is that 3 of those 4 are so specialist reliant, which makes Ross's life really hard. And to be fair to Ross, if Boxberger and Fulmer were throwing like the back of their baseball card, it'd be different. Those guys are supposed to be high leverage. They haven't been able to be.
Sure.
But somebody has to emerge within the team, whether Fulmer figures it out, whether it's Boxberger, maybe it's Rucker, maybe it's Cam Sanders down in AAA. They need another guy that can get out both sides of the plate. Or Ross needs to start giving guys like Hughes and Alzolay more opportunities against their weak points to see if they could figure it out and develop into that guy for this bullpen to make sense now. I think Leiter he's used beautifully. I didn't love him on Saturday down 2, but it is what it is. But I wouldn't mess with Leiter. Let him be a specialist. That's fine. I think I'd like to see Hughes get more at bat against righties, facing righties and seeing that. But right now that I'm making this point is from now on, that is the hierarchy. So if we see on Tuesday night Michael Fulmer pitch in a high leverage spot, that is egregious now. I've given Ross his pass. It is egregious. I would go as far as to say if Boxberger's pitching in a high leverage spot and Keegan Thompson was burned already, that's egregious. And the other thing that we'll have to talk about at a separate time is, do we really need two multi-inning guys? Or can one of those guys turn into being your meaty ninth inning, high leverage, eighth inning, whatever guy and go from there? I don't know. You might need it right now because your starters are thin. But going forward, I trust Keegan Thompson with the game on the line the most out of any.
To see it.
Yeah, I trust Keegan Thompson with the game on the line out of anyone. And then lastly, real quick, my third takeaway. The bullpen stuff with Ross, I give a pass to until now. I said 20 games. It's been 21. We've seen it. But what happened today in the ninth inning, we have to mention.
Sure.
Ian Happ does not start the baseball game. And when I say today, I apologize. I mean on Sunday. Sunday's game. Cubs get the first two guys on against Brewstar Gratterall. Mr. Gratterall is the best reliever that the Dodgers have because Evan Phillips is on paternity leave. He was not available. Okay? So he is their best reliever. He is in his second inning of work. You get a nice solid hit from Wisdom, and then you get a gift catcher's interference with Trey Mancini. The next three hitters are Luis Torrens, only supposed to hit versus left-handers. Yan Gomes, much better versus lefties. He got a bloop lucky hit. And Nick Madrigal. Ian Happ is available. I understand that Caleb Ferguson, a lefty, is warming up for the Dodgers, so you're going to turn Ian Happ around. I don't care. Ian Happ had to have been put in that game unless there's something going on with him physically we don't know about, especially when the bases were loaded with Nick Madrigal. Because Brewstar Gratterall is a turbo sinker, turbo ground ball guy. Nick Madrigal is a ridiculously high ground ball hitter. That double play analytically was the most probable outcome that possibly could have happened. What if you pull Madrigal for Ian Happ? I know Ian has struggled from the right side so far in an early sample size, but Matt, you know this better than I do. Cold day, Wrigley Field, brand new pitcher. What if it took him about 6-7 pitches to find the zone?
Take a chance.
Yeah. Then you walk a guy, Horner's up. You're only down 3. You're right in the game. I thought that process was wrong, and I had to address that. That's not right.
Yeah, and I would be surprised if Happ had the gym shoes on all day. There's a day off on Monday, so he should be able to pinch hit, in the late innings. That wasn't right. I didn't like that as well. And again, is Ross utilizing what he has correctly? The jury is
and to clarify, it's not a knock on Nick Madrigal. If you're down 1 in that situation and there's just a runner on third and a double play isn't in order and the infield's in, by all means you need contact. This wasn't a contact spot. This was a damage spot or a walk spot. And you're
good way to put it.
And why? And they're going to take out Gratterall, because if Gratterall faces Ian Happ, he could tie the game. So they're going to take out and you get a chance to take out their best reliever. It made no sense to me, so I had to address that. But overall, as we move on from this, and I'll say this, I'm not bummed. I'm not depressed. I still feel good. Those are just my negative takeaways.
Yeah, and I think that's really the main question here on a Monday, because Friday's win made me so ecstatic.
Yeah, too much.
And people compared the team to the 2013 Red Sox and the 2009 Blackhawks. And the goal after Friday was, okay, you split the first 2. Now you just need to split the second 2. And they don't do it.
Right.
They lose decisively Saturday and lose, I would say, convincingly Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I would like to talk about record in terms of them being, 12-9. You had that rain out in Cincy a couple weeks ago, so you have 27 games in April. We were thinking 14-13 or 13-14, given the strength of schedule. Well, here they are with 6 to play this week to round out the month, and they're only 1 or 2 wins from either of those goals. Mm-hmm. And you got 3 with the Fathers and 3 with the Marlins, by the way. So the big picture outlook is good. And remember that Fangraphs had the Cubs at 77 wins. FanDuel had them at 75.5. Fangraphs currently puts the Cubs at 81-81. They're already +4 based on this 21-game start. Right. So in terms of that, as unfortunate as this weekend went, I am still feeling good. Mm-hmm. We are going to preview the series with the Padres later in the show. But I think right now, with 21 in and 6 to play in the month, They've done pretty darn good. Coming up next, we get to an area where the Jed Hoyer might not be doing such a good job, and that is with the roster. I count as many as 3 spots that aren't as serious as they should be, and we reveal those coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. This is the coolest game we've played in a long time, and it allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise, playing through seasons and leading your team and fans to glory as you build a historic dynasty. You can hire the right coaches and staff, scout and draft players, and navigate your team through free agency and all the ups and downs of a season. This is all in a challenging and realistic game world. It's completely free, playable offline, playable on the go, as you want and when you want to. Locked On Cubs listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up in the Apple and Google Play stores. That's probaseballgm.com for Ultimate Pro Baseball GM to start your dynasty today. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Locked On Podcast Network, now partners with SiriusXM. Promos for our show will soon be running during live play-by-play of Cubs games on SiriusXM. And you can catch every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast on the SXM app by searching Cubs.
Matt, I want to get in 2 quick points before we move on to the roster that are important. Number one, I just want to say that if Sunday's game was a playoff game or later in the year, I think the Cubs would have won. I got a lot of tweets about why Stroman ended up pitching to 6th, because you had Freeman, Muncy, Martinez, then Outman, and Hughes was already warming up. And the answer is it's April, and Marcus Stroman has earned the right to try and pitch that 6th inning because he pitched really well. If that was a postseason game or a closer game, you probably would have been in a better spot because the Dodgers don't hit lefties. But I'm not going to knock on Ross for leaning on his horse.
In a way, he's earned the right to allow 5 runs in a start.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but he's earned the right to at least pitch into the 6th against the middle of the order when he hadn't been touched up. And then real quick, my only devil's advocate point before we went to break, and I agree with every single thing you said, but other fans will say, because the 12-9 is much better than where we thought they would be. But the devil's advocate point is, if you were to tell me that as of right now, Wisdom, Bellinger, Horner, Swanson, Steele, and Stroman would all be playing all-star level baseball, maybe you'd like to have a game or 2 better. But that's nitpicking. Right. Hopefully they could sustain it. That's the thing. Can these guys sustain what they're doing right now? If they do, they'll continue to win a lot of games. Go ahead.
Yeah, because if they do have a good year, some of those guys need to continue to be above the belt, like we've talked about before as well.
Yeah, right. You're just getting great performances right now from those guys, so you want to keep winning.
3 roster spots not being used seriously at all. Merriweather, Terens, and Rios. The latter 2 just simply don't play, especially the latter, Rios, okay? If anybody sees him this week at Wrigley, give us a call, okay? 312-834-4634. And, the Terens thing, listen, 21 games in, no, that's not a small amount to determine a roster spot at this stage. I would say at this stage, his time is done. You got an off day Monday. Yep. You finish out the homestand Tuesday evening. I think we have to hear about some type of movement on this roster. Now, if I'm being greedy, it would be with all 3 of these spots, right? Merriweather, Terens, and Rios. Not sure that's going to happen. But to utilize 3 of your 26 spots as poorly as they have, and perhaps it was a issue with the construction back on March 30th, but it's April 23rd. So even if it was poorly constructed, that needs to change. You've only made 1 roster move the entire year, and that was because of an injury. Tyone to the IL, Assad up, Assad down, Estrada in. What about poor performance or just a lack of playing time? And I think those three spots need to be addressed, and quite frankly, they need to be addressed this week.
I'm starting to get really mad about the Torrens thing.
Right.
It's and Bleacher Nation did like their enhanced box score after the game and said something along the lines. I don't want to quote it because it wasn't quoted, but it was like they're on the same page as us. But there was a comment like, "I understand why the Cubs are giving this Torrens thing a chance. I don't know why, and it's nothing to do with Torrens the player. It's the fit." We had to give Ian Happ a day off and had to have Patrick Wisdom play left field again. And by the way, he misplayed a double and turned it into a two-runner because he's not an outfielder. And we continue to play this guy who, by the way, looked dramatically overwhelmed. Granted, it was Clayton Kershaw, but his best swing of the day came against a right-hander. I don't get it. I understand Morel and Velasquez you want to be playing every day. Christopher Morel can fit in and DH and be a part of this team. He's getting worse at AAA by not seeing anything to hit. He needs to be in the middle of this team's lineup. The Rios thing and the Merriweather thing, I agree with you, but it doesn't keep me up at night. The Torrens thing is ridiculous. A third catcher that doesn't play anywhere else on the outfield that only hits against select left-handers. Enough already. Enough. It's ridiculous. We don't have another outfielder. What? Bellinger's going to go have his kid. We have to bring up a guy from AAA. Just have a guy on the roster that is feasible. Mastroboni makes a lot more sense than Torrens.
Oh, 100%.
And he's raked, I believe, at AAA.
Oh, yeah. No, he got his gardening tools out, dog.
It is reprehensible roster construction that Luis Torrens is up and Mastroboni, Velasquez, Morel, and Mervis. Those four names that I just mentioned, Mastroboni, Morel, Velasquez, and Mervis are all
good names. They're
all in a different galaxy of player than Luis Torrens in terms of versatility, in terms of value. And two of those four do not need any more seasoning. So what's the holdup? What's going on? What type of politics? Somebody write in the chat what I'm missing. What is it? Does Torrens have stock options in this club? It makes no sense. And again, nothing against Luis Torrens. He's done fine. It's just his skill set doesn't match. If Barnhart got hurt, Torrens should be on the team.
But you have two perfectly healthy catchers.
Yeah, that complement each other fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and the discussion...
He doesn't even catch.
I think there was a misplaced... Yeah, he finally caught the other day, like an inning or two. I think it was a misplaced narrative about, they want to keep him around for his offense, and he doesn't have any options. He'd have to go through waivers. Respectfully to him, doesn't matter.
They
have four better players down in AAA, maybe even more than that.
It's like opportunity costs and economics. It's what you're gaining from Torrens' offense and what you're losing from not having these other guys on the team instead of him does not match up. Well, what are we talking about? A couple base hits here and there. He hasn't hit a homer yet. I understand it's been limited, but it's not like if this guy was like an absolute lefty masher, he's not that. He's a nice bench piece against the lefty versus a guy that could do the same thing and hit lefties and actually play the outfield like Morel or Velasquez or Mastroboni against righties or just a guy that might be your best power hitter in the entire organization that's just rotting in AAA as Torrens swings at another low and in slider against Kershaw, strike three for Kershaw's 2,684th K. Man, what a pitcher he is, huh?
He is. I know you enjoy him. And how on the planet Earth, 21 games into an MLB season, with Suzuki now up and healthy
and hitting, by the way,
have only three outfielders still.
It's
how do you have I get it. He's a pro athlete. How do you have a third baseman keep starting in the outfield?
And
third baseman should start at third base.
No, Mancini played a lot of right field.
Right, a first baseman and right. Keep going.
No, I don't know. I don't understand
it.
It's one of those things that I feel like as a show we're missing something.
No, we're not. I thought about it. We're not.
We have to be. Maybe Terrenz has some sort of relative. I don't know what it
is. And what are we in gosh name gonna do with Michael S. Fulmer? I don't want to speculate, so I'll say this.
No,
Fulmer is not pitching well, fam. And the Cubs are not going to be able to keep him either temporarily or permanently if something doesn't change. Fulmer quickly now in 9 1/3 innings has an 8.68 ERA.
That's an easy one. You just drop him to low leverage.
Okay.
And let him be. Just drop him to low leverage and give him. And I need to see 5 appearances. 5 before he bumps up to medium leverage.
I like it.
Who replaces him? We already talked about it. Rucker goes from low to medium. Fulmer goes all the way high, straight down to low.
Right.
And by the way, lower than Merriweather.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Fulmer's been the worst reliever on the team.
For now, for sure.
And maybe it's just the Dodgers. Maybe the Dodgers have something on him because outside of the Mariners, the Dodgers have been his problem. I still believe in his stuff. I still believe in him. He will be an asset going forward, but he needs a break. He needs either an IL stint or he only pitches in the lowest leverage of spots. I was fine with him being used in a 2-run game, losing, fine with that. But if he comes in on Tuesday and this game's tied or we're leading, you could do the show with Nicholas John Cozy for the second time. Okay.
All right. Well, I'll keep tabs on that then. And we're planning to go live, I believe, Tuesday evening, right?
Well, I don't know. You haven't told me anything. I didn't even know we were having Lindsay on Monday or for Tuesday's show.
Did I forget to tell you that?
Yeah, no, you didn't tell me that. Lindsay just DM'd me. He's like, can't wait to do the show with you for Tuesday's show.
What are your questions?
So excited. What are your questions? I said, I didn't even know you were coming on. God bless you. Let me think of something. Why is Mervis not on the team? There's the first question.
Yeah, there's what questions? I could just we got plenty of questions for you. All right, well we'll have to talk about that.
No, you just remember you have my number.
I do, and I use it frequently.
I'm happy there's a day off on Monday.
Coming up next, we preview Cubs Padres, which begins on Tuesday. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is sorry, I lost my spot here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you've benefited from therapy, then you would benefit from BetterHelp. If you're thinking about starting, give BetterHelp a try. The big kicker here, it's exclusively online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. And today's episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious snack, but don't want all the sugar and calories? Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever. That's Built Bar. It's healthy and it is amazing. Unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And you can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club while also shopping at Built.com. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, a whopping 17 grams of protein. So if you're close to a Walmart or Sam's Club, you could pick up a 4-bar box or shop online at Built.com and thank us later picking up a Built Bar. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Always a packed Monday episode whenever and wherever you may be listening. Cubs have a day off Monday and then a 3-game series against the Padres Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. First pitch times of 6:40, 6:40, and 1:20. Steele versus Snell, Smiley versus Waka, and Wisniewski versus Lugo. Favorable matchup, Sam. And the goal is absolutely, I think, to win 2 out of 3.
Lose your spot on an ad like Michael Former lost his spot in high leverage. Welcome to Locked On Cubs. The Cubs are going to win this series.
Okay.
They're going to win this series. And I feel good about it. Just like I said in the show, I didn't feel once they lost Thursday's game, a split would have been magical.
Right.
The Cubs are going to win this series. They're going to bounce back. And, I agree with everything you said. I feel good about where they're at. This was a rough weekend. You played the Dodgers 7 times. You lost 4-3. And every loss you could pick at something that maybe you could have done better than. I feel good. Remember, wasn't that long ago that I said, hey, let's go 8-8 in these next 16 and get to 12-12. They would accomplish that by getting swept by the Padres. So wow. They're still ahead of schedule here. If you could win 2 out of 3 against San Diego, that puts you to 14-10. Then you get a 10-game stretch that looks something like, I think it's Marlins 3, Nats 4, Marlins 3.
Yes.
And that's a 10-game stretch that you feel really good about going, even just, let's say if you lowball at 6-4.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're a 20-14 club, and that's right where you want to be. That's right where you want to be.
Great.
And 6-4 in that 10-game stretch is lowballing it. I mean, the Marlins are
conservative.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. They can pitch, but the Cubs have, outside of the Oakland series where they just completely dismantled them, they face the Mariners, who have a very tough lineup, the Rangers, who have a great lineup. Adolis Garcia might break Hack Wilson's RBI record this year. And the Dodgers, who against righties are murder and against lefties, look like the Reds. And you won both the games when you threw lefties. So you're going to get a nice little break here after San Diego. This lineup coming in here is going to be tough. But I like the pitching matchup, and I think things are going to be okay. So hang in there. Enjoy your Monday off. Get away from the Cubs for a bit after you listen to our show, of course. Take a breather. I know I'm going to take one. I'm not going to watch any baseball tomorrow because the team on the South Side hasn't won a game since the Vietnam War. Okay, so I'm not going to watch them. I'm gonna dive into some NBA postseason on Monday night. Gosh. I'm gonna dive into that because I don't want to watch the Sox play up in Canada.
Every dayers, stay with us all week long. On Tuesday's episode, we will be apparently joined by Lindsey Crosby,
according to you, and not me. I don't know what's going on in the show. Hey, maybe we'll have Dansby Swanson on.
And on Tuesday night, we will apparently be live after Cubs Padres.
Great. And Wednesday night, I'll be fired.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button for Locked On Cubs on YouTube and smash the like button for the algorithm, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods, and streaming soon on SiriusXM. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.